Everybody's still picking Alabama? Man, that's boring.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Friday. Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making us part of your day. Thanks for listening. You can find us wherever you find your podcast and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Keep it free. Would love to have you. Man, thanks. Like I said, thanks for making us part of your day. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. This episode, again, is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. So stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. So, God, man, this is, we're inching towards the weekend. I felt like this week's been really long with the anticipation of this game, but we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, I'm going to make my weekly picks for FanDuel. I'm going to give you my prediction. I'm going to tell you about the keys to the victory for Vanderbilt against Alabama. But, man, honestly, this game's at 10.5 now, the spread. And this game has massive impact, massive implications, I think, for both teams in this game. And I want to start by kind of talking about what those implications are, what the impact of this game is, should Vanderbilt win and should Alabama win. So for Vanderbilt, the impact is huge. It's massive, right? Because I think if you win this game, you're at a point in the season where, like last year you win it, you're sitting at 3-2. Like, yeah, you're gonna have a pretty good year, but like at 3-2, you have to pretty much win out to have any shot at anything more than just a slightly better bowl game. But right now, you went like for this year though. What's on the table is this: if you win this game, you're 6-0. You're thinking Atlanta. Like I think SEC championship is well in your sights if you win this game, because you look at the rest of the schedule, and I don't want to look too far ahead because there's an important game happening Saturday, but like the impact of this game, I think is huge. And I think Vanderbilt knows that. And obviously they're focused for a lot of reasons. It's Alabama. It's a chance to repeat. It's just kind of who they are. It's just kind of in their DNA. But, we as fans, we can enjoy this a little bit more. But, I mean, I think this is the biggest game Vanderbilt has been a part of. I don't really know a lot about the history prior to the 2000s, as far as like when they were in some of these bigger games, or like if there was ever SEC championship or a national title hopes in the forefront. I know in the 20s they were really good. The teens in the 20s and the 30s they were a SEC powerhouse, but like that's a totally different sport right now. But I mean, it shouldn't be overlooked. But maybe that's the last time Vanderbilt was in this position to where, hey, you win this game, you're putting yourself in great position. Because also what comes with this win is this, because of what and I think these implications are good to talk about because of what it's going to take to get to those, to get to that goal. I think for these things to be on the table, you have to beat Alabama, you have to execute your game plan. You have to play a cleaner brand of football. You have to stop big plays from happening. You have to chew up yards and clock. You have to run the game exceptionally well, run the ball exceptionally well. You just have to execute, and you have to play at the elite level that your stats should suggest that you have played at this point. The reason why you've played 5 games, you've won 5 games, and Diego Pavia has not finished a single one of those games. And it's all because of the scoreboard. He was taken out because the score was out of hand. So you keep that up. You're playing elite football. This is only going to build confidence. This is the type of game you win, and everyone's like whoa, Vanderbilt, they're for real. Like I with things that are in disarray at LSU, Like that's not a very comfortable situation. And you go into a bye week 6-0, you get a little bit healthier, and then you get LSU at 11 a.m. at home. Mizzou is, I think, then you get Mizzou, which they're red hot as well. They may beat Alabama too. That game's going to be tricky next week, but that's, then you get Texas, who's struggling a little bit at the quarterback position. We'll see what they have against Florida this week. Do they get right? Do they blow out Florida, or is this going to be a struggle fest? Like that's something that's not very comfortable. If you're a Texas fan, then you got Auburn, who's on quit watch. You have Kentucky, who's on quit watch, and Tennessee, who's a really, really good team, but obviously has been kind of up and down. The Georgia game was a roller coaster. They saw all levels of the roller coaster in one game there. Same with Mississippi State. Like Tennessee's vulnerable. They're not invincible. They're extremely talented. They're a really good football team, but they are not invincible. No team on Vanderbilt's schedule is invincible. This is a wide open SEC. So if they win this game, why not? That's the impact of this game. Those are the implications that are on the table. Those are the stakes. And this is why you play SEC football, because any given year, if you get into the league, any given year, your team could be in that position. Every single team now has been in that position. Mississippi State was ranked number 1 in the country not long ago when they had Dak Prescott. Like they were at that level at one point. Kentucky was up there at one point in like the late 2000s with Mike Woodson. They were in that position with those teams. They were even in those positions early in Mark Stoops' tenure with like Benny Snell and those guys and those teams that were elite on defense. Like they won 9-10 games. I think they won 10 games one year. Like they were in the picture. Like this is why you play SEC football, because any team can be good in a year. And Vanderbilt decides they finally get serious with NIL and serious with transfer portal, and they finally back the program. They went to a bowl. The first year they did that, guess what happened? Lo and behold, they have a winning record. They go to a bowl game, and they look dominant in the bowl game. Like they look like a team that belonged on the field in the SEC, in the Southeastern Conference, right? So the implications are there. You're a viable program. You prove that you belong. You prove that you're legitimate. And I think you set yourself up to where now you start to get the players in recruiting, which you're already starting to see an uptick. I think you get yourself in better position for NIL donors to want to line up at the door and go get people from the portal to come in and fill this team. And suddenly it's not the 1 year, or actually this would be a 2-year flash in the pan with Diego Pavia and go back to obscurity and go back to being Vanderbilt. Like I honestly think with Vanderbilt participating in actually playing SEC football on and off the field, I don't think this is a fluke. And this game has a chance to prove that. Even a competitive loss would prove that point, right? But a win would just exclamation point, pound the table, like, hey, we are freaking here. Like, kick the door in. Like, I think you can start looking. I think you can start looking at Atlanta. Now, it's a long way to go. It's a long way to go. But you're not in the conversation. You win this game, you're in the conversation. It's a long and winding road, that conversation right now, because that's the way the league is. The league, there is no dominant team. No team has taken that over yet. Vanderbilt would be their second conference win. They would be 2-0 in league play. Alabama would get their first SEC loss. Oklahoma's still undefeated, but they don't have John Mateer, so it's going to be a tough road for them. Like Mizzou is undefeated in conference. Like it's gonna be kind of a long, winding road, and it's going to be set up to be a really fun season if Vanderbilt can pull this upset. And I think that they can. I legitimately think they can. In my media tour this week, and I appreciate all of you for tuning in and commenting and participating and engaging in the show. This has been a fun ride this week. I finally know what it's like to be on this side with a team that is relevant. And Vanderbilt has done that. And they can further that. They can push that forward. They can catapult that forward. Like, it can go fast with the win here. You're looking at Atlanta. You're in the circle of people that are vying for a spot in Atlanta. That's going to be tough to do. Still a long road. Do not get it twisted. It is a long and winding road. But you're in the conversation, and you've never been in the conversation for Atlanta. Ever. You've never been. The only conversation that you've had with Atlanta is going down there for SEC Media Days. And maybe a chance to spoil Tennessee's chance to go there, which I don't think the years that they beat Tennessee was vying for that spot anyway. So, like, I don't think you've really had any implication on anything happening in Atlanta in December. So that's something to be excited about. You win that game, you're in the conversation. I'm not saying they're going to Atlanta just yet. I'm not there yet, but they're in the conversation, and that is a massive step in the right direction. That's why this game has massive impact. I think Vanderbilt sees that, and I think they're a mature enough team to go get that and not get clouded by. I think they got clouded by that a little bit last year. That's why they lost to Georgia State. Their heads were a little big. They were feeling themselves a little bit. I think they're very laser focused right now, and they just have a it factor about them, a mature, focused energy about them, a confidence that I think is it's not nothing like I've seen in a Vanderbilt program since I've been really kind of paying attention to Vanderbilt. So for those reasons, I think it's going to be exciting. We're going to talk about the keys. We're going to talk about how they can achieve that. We're going to talk about the keys to the game next. All right, Mazda. It's move or be moved, right? So this episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than just put points on the board. They move crowds, they move culture, and they keep moving the game forward. Now, this week's moment that moved the game forward, it's more than a moment. It's about 5 of them. Diego Pavia tossed a tying a school record, 5 touchdowns. So 5 moments that moved the game forward for Diego Pavia. Each touchdown he threw against Utah State moved the game forward, moved the culture forward. I think it put another stamp in what Vanderbilt's trying to accomplish this year, put another exclamation point in what they're trying to do offensively and as a team as a whole. So he had a massive impact on last week's game. I think old school Vanderbilt, I think that's like a 24-21 late rally score type of win for Vanderbilt in years past against Utah State. But they took care of business. They got a little lackadaisical on defense and gave up some stuff late. But for the most part, it was a blowout win and a blowout win that Vanderbilt doesn't normally get in that situation, all things considered. So Diego Pavia was moving the game forward. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Also, it's almost the weekend. It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving you more every time you order. These players deliver when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia delivered in a huge way, right? And it was the fact that in a game that was somewhat considered a trap game, a game against a really good opponent, probably going to be in contention for the Mountain West Championship in year 1 of Bronco Mendenhall's tenure. That game could have gotten ugly. And Diego Pavia threw 5 touchdowns, tied a school record for most touchdown passes in a game. Junior Sherrill had 3 of them. I mean, it was an unbelievable performance from an unbelievable quarterback and an unbelievable leader who's on to something special this year. So if you've been watching week after week, this performance wasn't a fluke. Diego Pavia is on a streak. And just like Diego Pavia delivered for Vanderbilt, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period good through November 18th. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. Thanks for making us your first listen. Locked On SEC, great place to go. For your next listen, any show on the SEC Network here or on the SEC, in the SEC family in the Locked On Network is a really good place to go. So you can't go wrong there. But looking at this game, right, we talked about the massive impact of this game, like the momentum, the program momentum that that Vanderbilt could be catapulted into. Like, this game is massive. And it's massive for Alabama too. Like, they win this game, and I think the narrative changes on them, because after Florida State, it was Kalen DeBoer is cooked. This team looks soft. All of that, right? They win this game, that changes. And it's weird, and it's still very weird to say that, like, winning against Vanderbilt can change that narrative. But Vanderbilt's probably the most physical team in the conference. That's very surreal to say, and I love being able to say that. And that warms my heart, because physicality is a staple of this league, and Vanderbilt has it. That's part of their DNA. So what are the keys to the game? There's a lot of keys. We've been talking about a lot of different things. I've been talking about, when I say we, like, I've been here, there, and everywhere talking about this game with pretty much everybody in the world, it feels like. So we've talked about a bunch of different things, a bunch of different keys. So I'm going to summarize it for you. I've narrowed it down and simplified it into 3 key points. I've done an offense. I usually do an offense, a defense, and just a general team key. So here we go. All right. So for offense against Alabama, stay on schedule, capitalize in the run game, hit your big plays, take shots when the opportunity comes, because I think what that means is this: Alabama's 90th in the country defending the run. Vanderbilt is number 2 in the conference in rush offense, and I think they're like top 20 nationally. I can't remember the exact ranking, but they're top 20 nationally. I've said so many numbers all week, they all run together at this point. But they're top 20 nationally in rushing offense. So for Vanderbilt, and this isn't a very difficult thing for them to do offensively, stay on schedule. And they do that extremely well, because they can usually get into 2nd and 6 or 5, and then they can usually get into 3rd and 3 or less, and then convert, and then do it all over again. A lot of and what's great about Vanderbilt is a lot of these coordinators, they're just not very patient. And spoken from an offensive coordinator myself, oftentimes my Achilles heel was I would get impatient. I got to take a shot here. I've got to try to get a big play. Instead of just like, hey, this is our identity and we're just going to stick to it and be patient. I felt like at times that there was times where I probably should have run, didn't call a run play, or, vice versa. Like, I've always just kind of, not always, but like oftentimes when I get myself in trouble, it's because I'm impatient. And a lot of offense coordinators will never admit that, but it's the truth. They get impatient. They feel like they have to take the shots downfield. They feel like they have to make it into a pretty game. If it gets ugly, if it gets slugfest, rock fight-ish, like that type of atmosphere, they just panic. And what Vanderbilt does an exceptional job of is they don't panic in those situations. They don't try to hit the big shot plays. It feels like they have an understanding of what they are offensively. And yes, they still take shots. They're not just 3 yards in a cloud of dust. They're very creative. They can be very explosive. But when it comes to shot plays, I feel like they have, and Diego Pavia hasn't executed. There's 3 shot plays they didn't execute on, and he threw interceptions on because he underthrew it. But like, they're taking those shots. They're sending a message. but it feels like they're at opportunistic times. So for the offense, just be patient, move the ball. I think if you can grind the game down to a slower pace at the beginning of the game, I think you can take the crowd out of it, and then you throw the dagger, right? So it's a bunch of, like Clark Lee always describes this with this boxing analogy: body blows, body shots, body blows. Just find those ribs and just work those ribs, work the kidneys, work the gut, work the chest, like work those body blows until you get an opening to land a right cross to the chin and land a couple of those. And then once you get them on their heels, then you go on the attack. Then you be super hyper aggressive. That's a big key for Vanderbilt. Be patient, because patience will pay off. All right. Defensively, stay disciplined, play clean first and foremost. You have to tackle well in space. You have to find every possible way to disrupt. And that's a very broad statement. I get that. But it covers a lot of things, right? Play clean. Penalties have been a problem for this defense. That's been the only Achilles heel. And you know what? I'm going to talk about that here in just a second, where I'm going to talk about the defensive keys more in depth. I'm going to do that. And we're going to make picks, and we're going to close out the show. We're going to do that next. Hey, here's a company that I would love if they sent a free sample. Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with its brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. Think about this. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs and with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. I love how Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. And the swivel screen is a game changer. You can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without missing a beat. And the personalized class recommendation keeps you engaged. You get workouts tailored to your vibe and energy level each week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. And I'll say this, Peloton, if you need somebody to test it and see if the program actually works, I can be your test subject. Just send one over, and I'll test it, and we'll make some content. We'll make some beautiful content, and you'll see me. I'll go from out of shape to in shape, and it will all be because of you. So if you're thinking about it, just go ahead and send me one. That'd be good. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen. We're wrapping up the show. It's getting late early. We still got a lot of keys to talk about. We're going to make our picks. We're going to wrap up the show here. We may go into overtime just a little bit, but that's okay. All right. Now, defense. Remember, stay disciplined, play clean first and foremost. You have to tackle well in space, and you have to find every way possible to disrupt, right? So as a defense, your havoc rate is incredible on defense. And I think they've done a phenomenal job of doing that. Now, there's penalties that need to be cleaned up. There are some big play possibilities where Alabama's going to hit those. So I think you get yourself in that situation where it's more about how you respond to those big plays, because you're going to give up some because they're just too talented. They're just too talented for you not to, truthfully. And if you stay disciplined, you limit those big plays. If you play clean, you limit the chances they have to stay on the field. Like the 2 fourth down massive penalties they get were just bad. Now, Clark Lee wrote off the blocked punt where he bulldozed the kicker. I think you have to work on your form there. I think you have to attack the ball differently so you don't plow into the kicker if you miss. And the holding call, which you can agree or disagree, he's just got to have, if he moves his feet there, I don't think it gets called. But the fact he didn't move his feet and he fell down, the ref, that's how he called it. And it sucks. It was probably a really bad ticky-tack call, and I agree with that notion. But again, I think you've got to move your feet. You can't use that as an excuse. You got to move your feet so you avoid that call. Anyway, penalties, you got to clean them up, right? Langston Patterson, if you get a free shot on Ty Simpson, just two-hand touch him and just tell him to sit. because you're not allowed to hit the quarterback apparently, because every time you hit the quarterback, you get some sort of penalty. So I say that jokingly, but you have to tackle well in space. I mean, what Alabama's going to do and do well is they're going to spread you out, force you to defend space, and you have to tackle well in space or you're going to be in trouble. So you have to do that. You have to win your one-on-one tackling battles. You have to do that. You have to close in. You have to get as many people to the ball. But at some point, it's going to come down to one guy making one tackle to prevent either a massive play or you stop him for a 3-yard gain, or you miss the tackle and he goes for 50 and a house call. Like that's a type of situation that I think Vanderbilt's going to be in at some point in this game. So you have to find a way to make that play. All right. And then find every way to disrupt, find every way possible to disrupt. It's got to be there. You got to do it in different ways, because you're not just going to be able to throw bodies at Ty Simpson. They're going to figure that out pretty quickly, and they're going to just get the ball out of his hand. So, obviously getting pressure on him, stop making the run non-existent. I don't think Georgia, I think, stopped it to a certain degree, but not well enough to where Alabama was predictable and one-dimensional. So I think in order to get good pressure on Ty Simpson, there can't be any semblance of a run game. I think you have to be elite and dominant against that. Also, I think you have to disrupt some things down the field too, like not just getting pressure at Ty Simpson. I think sometimes creating pressure, you can do that with your corners. And that, when I say that, it's your corners getting hands on receivers, not letting them make a break cleanly, not letting them off the line of scrimmage, just being a nuisance, making Ryan Williams have to dip and dive and waste time trying to get his hands off. Like Colby Taylor can reach that big old long arm out there and put it in his chest and make it really difficult, because Ryan Williams is skinny. And I mean, he's lightning fast and one of the best receivers in college football. Don't get me wrong. But if you can get hands on him, if you can jam him, rustle him up, jostle him, all that good stuff, like I think you have a chance at disrupting the timing. Maybe Ty Simpson doesn't get comfortable back there. Maybe he gets hit a couple of times, because there's got to be ways to create pressure with all 11 guys. And so, that's going to be a massive, massive key on defense. If they can do that, they can win. If they can't, they'll get carved up. Right? They've got to find ways to disrupt the rhythm and disrupt their offense. Now, the last key, the environment's going to be electric with all that's going on, game day, the implications I just talked about, all of that. Remember, you're a top 20 team. Remember that. And I think even in the Netflix documentary, he said, know who the blank you are and go execute. Like, know who you are. Understand the environment's great. It's electric. The crowd is going to be hyped up. They're going to be juiced up. It's going to be raucous. It's going to be an electric atmosphere. But guess what? You're a top 20 team. You're not 2-3 Vanderbilt coming in here hoping to be competitive. You're 5-0, ranked in the top 20, and you've beat the crap out of teams all year long. Understand what you are and who you are, and go execute to that. And don't forget that. And I think you give yourself a chance to win. And this team is extremely, extremely good at doing that. I think they have a great understanding of who they are. And Clark Lee reminds them, Diego Pavia reminds them, Eli Stowers reminds them, the Brandon Fontenette reminds them, Langston Patterson. Like, the leadership core on this team is massive. It's bought in, and they know exactly who they are. And it's great. So they got to understand that. So those are the keys. I'm going to flash them up one more time for those of you on the YouTube side. Stay on schedule, capitalize in the run game, hit your big plays, take shots when opportunity comes. For the defense, stay disciplined, play clean, and first and foremost, you have to tackle well in space. Find every possible way to disrupt. And number 3 is the environment will be electric with all that's going on. Remember, you're a top 20 team, so go execute. And then here's my picks coming into the week. I want to get these out there before we get out of here. A&M minus 12.5, Georgia minus 21.5, Miami minus 4.5. Picking all favorites this week. And Miami's not an SEC pick. I get it. And it says week 4. I get that too. It's not week 4. It's week 6. Pardon the typo. I was so excited about making these picks. I didn't even realize I still had week 4 up there. But anyway, here's my picks. Ignore the top part of it. Texas A&M, I think all the stuff that plagued them against Auburn in a win is fixable. And I think they get right against Mississippi State. Mississippi State's a phenomenal football team, but I just think A&M is just better. And I think they'll win and cover this at home. Georgia minus 21.5. After a loss, Kirby Smart's going to be pissed off, and Kentucky's not good enough to do anything about it. So I do think Georgia covers that. And Miami minus 4.5. They're just a really good football team. And Florida State, we still don't really know what they are. They beat Alabama. They lose to Virginia. We don't really know what they are, and Miami's not a team that you want to be trying to figure that out with. So I like Miami with 4.5 points. Carson Beck's playing amazingly this year. The defensive line is great. Like, this is going to be one of those classic Florida State Miami games where there's respectful hatred between the teams. They just compete and play hard, and they just love it, dude. And this is going to be some great football, but I do think Miami ultimately wins by a touchdown in that one. But it's going to be a highly contested, really good game between two really good teams. So those are my picks. Texas, Florida, that one was a tough one for me. That's kind of the bonus one. Texas minus 7.5. I picked Florida just because I just think both teams struggle so much offensively that I just think it's going to be low scoring and close. Not because I think Texas sucks, because I just think both teams are struggling offensively. And Florida's got an elite defense, and so does Texas. So I think that's going to factor into the struggles of both quarterbacks. So that's where I kind of see that game as well. But anyway, if you're making the trip to Tuscaloosa, enjoy, be safe. If anybody's going to game day, I dare you to shout out Locked On Vandy. I dare you to make a sign that shouts out Locked On Vandy. All right. I'm going to challenge somebody that's going to make a sign. Give me a shout out. I will Venmo you. I don't know how much I'll Venmo you, but I'll think of some sort of reward for that. So if anyone wants to shout out Locked On Vandy, please do so. But until next time, anchor down. I'll probably be back with you after the game, win or lose. We'll figure out the timing of all that, and we'll get at you then. Enjoy the game. Anchor down. Peace.